What up? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And look at you. You done stumbled upon little OTB Saints, where we bring you all the latest black and gold coverage.
Who are the Saints going to draft? Who's going to be their quarterback? What does the salary cap look like? All that information and more.
Hope you enjoy it. Like, subscribe. It's Tuesday at 9 a.m., which means it's time for a little Nick Underhill. Nick, what's up? neworleans.football is the site. Go check it out. Sub to the YouTube. 100K on YouTube. Massive congrats there. Got the new studio going on. What's up, brother? How we doing today?
Doing great. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Quick little news piece here. Maybe you can fill us into some context on what this actually means. But reported, yesterday by your own Mike Triplett, the former Raiders GM Dave Ziegler is going to be joining the Saints in an advisory role. So he was the Raiders general manager. We just continue to amass Raiders here. Does how much does that mean, do you think, to like the average fan? Is there an impact there? What's the deal here?
It's just someone that's coming in. He's going to advise him on both just pro and college stuff. So just another guy to bounce ideas off of. Highly decorated scout. He was with the Patriots for like 8 or 9 years. National director of scouting there. Like just kind of rose through the ranks. And then he went to the Raiders and he was a GM there, I believe, for 2 years. What's kind of interesting is he was on that staff that ushered Derek Carr out of Vegas. So it's kind of it's funny that his former boss is back here, kind of in that role. But look, I don't think it's anything that's like foundational changing or anything like that. It's just another guy that has a respected point of view in the room that they can bounce ideas off of, that can have input, that can, share some of his thoughts. But I'm not necessarily expecting it to be like a major change or anything. It's just, look, if there's a place where you can spend some money to upgrade, it's always in the front office. There's no cap. It's just kind of what you want to invest in it. And I think it's just getting another smart guy in the building.
Nick, did you see the very long Warren Sharp tweet on the Saints cap?
Which one?
The one maybe.
He's had many.
No, I know what you're saying, but like the most recent one from like a couple of days ago that's making the rounds, because we talked about it yesterday, right? And I think where I land is like in one case, Sharp is missing the mark because a lot of the teams that almost fetishize cap space are not good teams anyway, and it's not like the Saints haven't gotten frontline players. But we did also maybe get to, but when you do what the Saints do, does that lower the margin of error than when you miss on like 3 out of 4 first-round picks? It becomes a bit of a disaster. Does it hurt you when it comes to spots 48 through 53 on a roster, which like Parcells used to talk about always being so important? So it kind of landed somewhere a bit in the middle. What's your reaction to Sharp saying that? Basically, I mean, what he gets at basically is that the Saints cap is the reason why they haven't been able to take advantage of a bad NFC South.
Yeah, I don't understand what his crusade is right now, honestly, because he's a really smart person.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things here. Like I get frustrated every time this time of year every year, because I end up being the person that's like explaining what they do, and it comes off as like a defense of what they do, and I'm not defending what they do at all. Like I think there's things that they do with the cap that are a little bit reckless at times. I think sometimes, it'd be better to go another direction. And I think it's kind of reached a point where it's like, is it worth it? And I think a lot of times the answer is no now, because it doesn't feel like they're right on the cusp of winning the Super Bowl. But the thing is that they've been doing this for so long. And look, if you miss 3 out of 4 draft picks, first-round picks, any team, and you have $45 million in space or negative $45 million in space, missing those 3 picks is going to have the same negative impact on your team either way, because you're not going to be a very good team. And now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go out and overpay people to come to your team. So now you have a whole new abyss. So like for every team, no matter how you manage the cap, like you have to hit on your draft picks. Now, is the margin of error more narrow, like when you're living this way? Yeah, because you don't have that money necessarily to go out and use it as an eraser. But here's the thing, like the Saints are going to get to like plus $35-40 million in cap space. They're going to have all this money to go out and spend, and they're going to do what they do. I mean, last year, like if we want to talk about Warren Sharp's tweet, like, so last year, the reason they weren't good is because of cap space, but they signed the most expensive free agent on the market last year. So that doesn't add up to me as a viable reason, because they had the money to go out and get the most expensive player on the market. So I think it was probably more about coaching, execution, Derek Carr not necessarily picking up the offense to the peak ability until like the final 5 weeks of the season. I think that was probably more the reason than not having cap space. But like the thing is, with the way they manage it is like they're going to push. So you have 20 million in dead money or whatever. You just push another 20 million forward, right? And you can do that in perpetuity. You can literally do that forever and kind of just hide the same $20 million every single year. I think where it gets you is that if you have that 20 million in dead money and you're pushing 20 to hide it, like when you actually have a good team and it becomes time to go all in, you could push that same 20 million forward, not have the 20 million in dead money, and now have a higher percentage of the cap to spend. Whereas like you're pushing money forward to get you back to zero at this point. So that's where it's limiting, but like you literally can't go through their history of stuff and say this has stopped them from retaining this player, going and getting this guy. Like I'm sure there's been some, but it's not this hamstringing thing because they are out here spending money every single year. And the one year they didn't, it was the COVID year, and that kind of spilled over into 21 when it was like
COVID screwed them. The whole plan, to make everything work, the cap has to perpetually rise, correct?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, but it's not. It's just so frustrating because someone like Warren Sharp, like he consults for teams, he works with numbers.
Yeah,
he's a math guy, he's an analytics guy. He understands how this works. Like it almost feels like a thing where it's like farming for engagement on social media at this point because they know everyone's going to get fired up and be like, this is ridiculous because it's been the same 10-year fight. And the thing that's annoying is there's like a new person every, like, you know, we have like Mike Tyson as the final guy, and now it's like, you know, Mr. Dream or whatever. And it's just like, you know, we don't need King Hippo. Like, it's just, it's insane. Just every year it's a new person, and then like they disappear. But it's like, where were you the last 10 years? Like when everybody was talking about this. So it's a thing. Like I'm ranting, and I don't think they should manage the cap the way they do because I think there's better ways to do it. But it's not this like hugely limiting thing that everybody talks about because it's not like a hard rigid cap. It's a flexible thing. You can stretch it out. You can make stuff work, and they do. And they're gonna have $30-40 million, and you know all this outrage is gonna be for naught again, just like last year when there was all the outrage and they created space and they got Derek Carr, the year when they wanted Deshaun Watson and they went out and they were able to create literally all the space they needed to get them, and then they just thankfully didn't get them. But like, there's always room to create.
I would like if they create that space, which they always have. They just maybe sign better free agents, and so like that's going to be something that we pay attention to. But like, what are some things you think that they're going to do? Maybe who is in line for a restructure, or maybe even get released to get the Saints under that number, and then if they do get some space where they can make a move, which position do you think they go after?
Yeah, I mean, so I think the guy that's definitely gone, I would be shocked if Mike Thomas is on this team next year. Like, I just don't, I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's Travis Course. He's going to go somewhere else. You know, I think it's still definitely possible that Marshawn Lattimore gets traded. But look, you can just kind of, if you open up over the cap and you just go down the list and you look at base salary, like anyone with the big number is probably going to get restructured or has to take a pay cut. Like, I think Ryan Ramchek's probably a pay cut candidate at $17 million. Alvin has a $10 million base salary. I could see that getting restructured unless, you know, the cap went up this year, $10 million more than anybody was expecting, and it's probably his final year here. So maybe you leave that alone. Demario Davis, $10 million, Taysom, $10 million. They're definitely candidates to get something done. Marcus May, $7 million, definitely a candidate to get something done. And now we just move over to the roster bonus column. Cam Jordan, $6.7 million. That's going to get restructured. Cesar Ruiz has an $8 million roster bonus. That'll get restructured. So, I mean, there's just a ton of stuff they can still do to create a lot of space. And they're going to create that space. And it's like you said, like they got to go out, they got to sign better players. You know, I think the areas of need are fairly obvious. Pass rusher, offensive tackle, skill position player. Like, I think those are all things that they're going to prioritize. You know, I think 14 in the draft is probably a good place to get the pass rusher, maybe move up a little. If you got to, you know, if Dallas Turner's the guy you want, like maybe you got to do that. But I think, you know, I think they got the space and the ability to do the stuff they need to do. It's just a matter of making the right moves, you know, because this is the way they want to live. And I think they are going to try to go all in to try to keep this thing going because, you know, they're adamant on making it work with DA and Carr. And the way to do that is to get a better support system in there.
So you kind of mentioned Dallas Turner there in terms of 14. Taylor's been grinding the mock drafts here in studio. Have you? What else are you hearing? Like, how does this work when it comes to maybe hearing potential targets? Like, do you have sources that are actually in the know about what maybe could happen, or is nobody in the know, or is it just fundamentally impossible to be in the know because one thing changes on draft day and the domino effect is such that the entire landscape changes?
It's definitely way too early to like be in the know on anything. It's just kind
Okay.
of talking to people about, who likes who are the guys that are going to be at that spot. And I mean, it's pass rusher is something that they need. And you just start looking at it. Like, I'm just looking at it, and he's the guy that, I look at the top guys, him versus UCLA guy. Like, he's the guy that I kind of like the best at that spot. Yeah.
Wow,
thing
you like
that
him
I
because
think
he
is
killed Jaden Daniels, Nick. That's messed up, dude. The LSU fans are not going to be happy, dude. Jeez.
Well, look, that's what they need. They need someone athletic enough to chase down a Jaden Daniels. Like,
True.
that's the Achilles heel of the defense at this point. So, look, I think it's fascinating, though, because I think what college football is producing is going to force them to change their prototype at that spot a little bit. Not necessarily a prototype, but like the willingness to make the exception to the prototype, because they want 260, 270, 280-pound guys, and all the guys coming up are 240, 250. And obviously there's always room to add weight to that, but I think that it kind of just changes their thought process a little bit, and because that's what's available. But I think that's what's needed as well. Like, they got to get guys that are more athletic that can run at those spots. Like, the league has just changed to a point where that's how you got to be able to play, and that's why they haven't been able to stop the quarterbacks that can move, because they don't have athletic enough ends. So I think they tried to go that way last year with Foskey. Obviously hurt the whole year, but I think they need to upgrade that position and get somebody else. And I think the best value for it, like, I would rather they go out and spend on everything else and use the draft for the pass rusher. It's tough to get pigeonholed into a spot because maybe things don't fall your way, but I think that's the best bang for your buck at that position, because it's just you overpay for sacks, and like, I would rather they draft someone and overpay in the draft than overpay in free agency, because I don't know, just the odds of that working out in free agency it just never works the way you want it to at those high position values or positions of high value. So, I would look at the draft, and he just happens to be the guy I like the best. I'm not like tipping something here. He's the guy I like at that position.
I mean, look, he actually produced, like, you finally draft a guy in Brazil who was like good on major college football level and had stats, and look what happened. He ended up being good. So yeah, I'd be down to take a name and a guy who actually produced in college.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Foskey had the numbers too, but like the tape just wasn't necessarily all the way there. He kind of looked a little bit raw at Notre Dame. He had the sack numbers, but I think Turner just kind of has a little bit of. He has the numbers. The tape looks great. The pedigree's there.
It's a killer.
And yeah, I think you probably got to move up a little bit. Like, I don't know, him falling to 14 just kind of seems just like you're on the fringe of it. So if you want him, I think you do have to probably move up just a little bit. They don't have a lot of draft capital, so that would be extremely limiting. So I don't know. Maybe that's where the Lattimore trade comes into play too. Like, if you're going to do that, maybe you reacquire another pick, and that maybe gives you the ammo to go up and get them.
Nick, also on the offensive line, like, you got a couple of starting free agents there. It's an offensive line that struggled certainly at times last year, and you had guys off the street that were finding their way onto the field before Trevor Penning, which is a whole different conversation. But like, do they re-sign Hurst and Andrus Peat? Like, where do you think they make the moves on the Saints offensive front?
Probably have a better feel for this like after the combine. That's kind of where the rumors and stuff start flowing. Like, me personally, I would try to keep Pete. I think he brought everything together last year, and then you kind of backstop it a little bit. And if you strike out trying to replace, at least you have a guy there that can play either spot at a decent level. But look, I think that they gotta put a lot into the O line too. I mean, I think it's this system, like, you got to have more athletic. Like, I think the types of players that they want has to change a little bit. Like, you need more athleticism at that other guard spot. Like, I think James Hurst is a fine replacement level player. But like, if you're running outside zone and you need a guy to play in space, like, you need someone with a little bit more athleticism, I think, at that spot. So I think that's something that you got to try to upgrade for sure. I think the other tackle spot has to get better. I think it's going to be interesting because, you get a different coach taking a swing at Penning, and I don't think it's physical ability that's the issue there. I think it's kind of like confidence and retaining information a little bit. And it's not necessarily that someone else is going to come in and be able to reach him and change things up and change his trajectory or anything, but it doesn't hurt to try a different approach. Yeah. And like Doug Marrone is kind of like a very Like, if you're someone with confidence issues, and Doug Marone's like someone that's just kind of very blunt, direct. He'll tell you suck. Like, he's very hard-nosed, old-school type coaching. And if you have someone that kind of isn't responding to that, like, it's not the worst thing in the world to get the opposite of it. So maybe somebody reaches him and he figures it out. I don't think you can count on it by any means, but I think that's kind of the most fascinating thing heading into the offseason is just seeing how he reacts to a new coach, a new approach, and, maybe it gets something out of him.
Yeah, like I'd be. There's so much room for improvement. Like I'd be shocked if he's not a better player. It just feels like naturally he almost has to be. Nick Underhill, neworleans.football is the site. Go sign up today. Been a proud subscriber for many, many years, y'all. You can check out the NOF Network, of course, sub to him on YouTube as well. Nick, thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
Wow, just amazing black and gold takes right there, Jake.
I don't think I've ever heard any takes that are better than the two guys that just gave you that take.
And you can keep getting them by going ahead and liking, subscribing, ringing the bell to get notifications when we post. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next OTB Say.